Good morning, people. Today we are going to do the derivation in the third module. The derivation titled as Derivation for Strain Displacement Matrix B for 2D triangular element having three nodes and at each node 2 degree of freedom. Okay, that's why it's a two-dimensional triangular element we are taking. You can see on the screen You can see on the screen, this is the triangular element which we are considering. Okay, so now let us see that how to do the derivation. Before that, there is a quick recap till now what we have done. In module 1, we have covered the 1D problems, the Rayleigh-Ritz method and the Galerkin method. Through that, we have solved the problems on 1D bar elements using this two type of boundary conditions. Okay, in the second module, we have covered the two-dimensional elements questions having two different boundary conditions. That is elimination method and the penalty method. Okay, now this is what we are doing now is a third module in which we are going to study the two-dimensional and the higher order elements. In the two-dimensional, we have a derivation for shape functions for 2D triangular elements, that is tri-elements, and for 2D rectangular elements or quad elements. Okay, so this we have already covered in the syllabus. If you remember that 2D triangular element shape function, 2D quad elements, and today we are going to do the derivation for the displacement matrix B, which we have started seeing this displacement matrix, if you remember, from chapter 1. In chapter 1 also this derivation was there. In chapter 2 also the derivation was there. And now in chapter 3 also the derivation is. But don't worry, this displacement matrix will not be there in chapter 4 and 5. Because chapter 4 or the module 4 will have truss and beams. And chapter 5 will have dynamic consideration. That we'll see later. Okay. Now the second part of this module covers the higher order elements. What do you mean by higher order elements? Okay, so we will do the derivation for 6 noded and 8 noded elements. As now we are doing for 3 noded, you can see here that will be your 6 noded. And how does that 6 node in the two-dimensional triangular element will come? It's as simple as that. I will tell you higher order elements. So this will be your first node, this will be your second node, this will be your third node, and in between, that is at the midpoints when the nodes come, that is known as the higher order elements. Okay, so 2D triangular elements with 6 node and higher is known as higher order triangular element. And when we see for the quad, suppose this is your quad element. When we see for the quad element, we called it as a 4-noded element. So if I tell you this is quad 4-noded element means what? So let us check. This is first node, this is second node, this is your third node, this is your third node, and this is your fourth node. So this is normal 4-noded quad element. 4-noded quad element. So if it is a higher order means one at the mid of this, one at the mid of this, one at the mid of this, and one at the mid of this when it comes. Then it is known as 8-noded quad elements, which we'll see in the higher order elements. Okay, so this is the second part of your third module. Okay, so now we will start doing the derivation for the displacement matrix for three noded. You can see here three noded. What does that mean, three noded? We are not having any in between nodes. We are having just the corner nodes. This is known as node number 1. This is known as node number 2. And this is known as node number 3. We are going to do the derivation for these three nodes. Considering that each node is having 2 degree of freedom. That means, what do you mean by 2 degree of freedom? One in the x direction and second in the y direction. Again, node number 2, one in the x direction and second in the y direction. At node number 3, again in the x direction and in the y direction. Okay, so now total degree of freedom in each direction is 2. In each node is 2. Okay, so because of that we have 6 displacements. Each node carries 2 displacements. Okay, so very easy. X and y coordinates I have taken the generalized coordinate. Generalized coordinate, this is your x direction, this is your y direction. Okay, this is your x direction, this is your y direction. In this random triangle I have taken. Okay, there is some point P whose coordinate is x and y at the center. And the complete displacement of this system in x direction is u and in y direction is v. Okay, so let us see for each node. So at node number 1, the displacement in x direction is q1, the displacement in y direction is q2. Similarly for node number 2, the displacement in x direction is q3 and the displacement in y direction is q4. Last one, at node number 3, the displacement in x direction is q5 and the displacement in y direction is q6. Now, taking the help of all these quantities and the entities, we are going to find out the displacement matrix, which is denoted by matrix B. It's a generalized denotation for displacement matrix, which we have seen from chapter 1, 2 and continuing on chapter 3. Okay, so let us see how to start the derivation. Till here, I think it is very clear. Nothing so special, so big, so new I am telling. Same thing till now what we have done. We are doing the same thing for the two-dimensional triangular element. Having 3 nodes, each having 2 degree of freedom. Okay, now let us start now. Now you can see here, first sentence. Strain in two-dimensional element is given by. So if you want to find the strain displacement matrix, first thing you have to find out is what is strain for this particular system. What is your strain? So for this particular system, my strain is sigma. Okay, so now we can see here. Okay, we can see here epsilon equals to epsilon x, epsilon y and gamma xy. Okay, plane strain and shear strain. Plane strain in x direction, plane strain in y direction and shear strain in xy direction. So what will be its value? When we talk about a plane strain in x direction, then it will be du by dx. Agree with me? So du by dx will give you, if we find the del u by del x value, we'll get the epsilon x value. If we find out the epsilon, if you want to find out the epsilon y value, then del v by del y, if you find, you will get the value of del epsilon y. And if you want the strain, shear strain, then opposite it will be. So you can see here del u by del x, instead of that del u by del y if you find, plus del v by del y, here del v by del y. So instead of that del v by del x is just opposite. If you get the values, then you will get the strain. So now if you get all the 3 values, you are going to get the strain. And when we'll get all this value in the terms of matrix, then it will be strain displacement matrix. Okay, so now what is our aim? It's as simple as that. It's very easy. If we get the value of del u by del x, del v by del y, and del u by del y, del v by del x, then all together we will get the strain. Okay, so for that, let us start the derivation. Okay, so let us start the derivation. Applying the chain rule for the partial derivatives of u and v, which depends upon the natural coordinate eta and zeta, which in turn depends upon the Cartesian coordinate x and y. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to apply here the chain rule. How we are going to apply the chain rule? Why? Because we want to find this. And directly we cannot find this because we have to relate this Cartesian coordinate. We have to relate this Cartesian coordinate with respect to the natural coordinate system. Cartesian coordinate depends upon axis x and y, whereas the natural coordinate, if you remember, it depends upon eta and zeta. So if we write the relation between eta and zeta and x and y, we are going to get ultimately the strain. So how we are going to do? We are going to apply the chain rule. And what is the chain rule? Del u by del zeta, sorry, eta, and del u by del eta. How we can write it? You can see here. Okay, how we can write? You can check here. Del u by del x into del x by del eta plus del u by del y into del y by del zeta. Similarly, del u by del eta equal to del u by del x into del x by del eta plus del u by del y into del y by del eta. Can you check this? Can we write it like this? Okay. So from here we'll get del u by del eta. From here also we'll get del u by del eta. From here del u by del zeta, and here del u by del zeta. Correct? Now what happened? We have to find the value of this two so that we can substitute it. So what we are doing, actually what we are doing for this equation is we are relating the Cartesian coordinates. These x and y are the Cartesian coordinates with the natural coordinate system. What are natural coordinate? Eta, and this is eta and this is zeta. So we want to relate both. We want to relate both. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So let us see that how it is happening. So now if I want to write the same thing in terms of matrix, I have written here, see, same thing I am writing now in terms of matrix. How we can do that? Let us see how we can do that. So del u by del eta and del u by del zeta, we can write in the matrix form taking del u by del x as common. We are taking here del u by del x and del u by del y as common. That is the natural Cartesian coordinate system. We are taking it as a common value. So del u by del x, if I take common, that means this one I am taking out. You can see here also del u by del x is there. Second thing, del u by del y I am taking common. This and this I am taking. So now you can see what is left out. We have to write here. So what is left out? Del x by del eta, that is this one. Del y by del eta, that is this one. Del x by del zeta, that is this one. And del y by del eta, that is this one. So once we take this two common, we are left out with one matrix. Okay, which is nothing but del u by del, this same thing again I have written, del u by del eta and del u by del zeta. Now this matrix, I will clear the screen so that you can understand. Now this matrix is nothing but known as Jacobian matrix, which is denoted by J. So del x by del eta del x by del eta, del y by del eta, del x by del eta, del y by del eta. This all things is known as matrix J. Another thing, del u by del x. Here also I have written del u by del x, del u by del y, and del u by. So now what is our next aim is to find the matrix J. If you see on my next page, now we have to find out the value of matrix J. So till here it is understood. What we have done? We have done the chain rule. When we applied the chain rule, we got the value of del u by del eta and del u by del zeta. Then we have taken common from that, and that common factor in the terms of matrix we have written. That matrix name we have given it as a Jacobian matrix, and the Jacobian matrix stand like this. So this is del x by del eta and del y by del eta, del x by del zeta and del y by del zeta, which is known as Jacobian. Okay, which is very important in your exam. In your exam, if the same questions come for the less marks, what they can do is they can they can ask you to stop doing the derivation for the Jacobian matrix. Okay, they may ask you to find the derivation for the derive an expression for the Jacobian matrix, derive an expression for the Jacobian matrix for two-dimensional triangular element having 3 nodes with each 2 degree of freedom. Like that they can ask you. Okay, so if they ask you in such a way, you have to stop here. No need of going further. You can stop here. Okay, so let us see. Read next what is there. Okay, so this is your Jacobian matrix. So Jacobian matrix can be defined as a transformation matrix which is used to transform natural coordinate to the Cartesian coordinate. Very simple. You can see it is used to transform. If any system, any feature, any diagram, if you are having in a natural coordinate system and you want to transfer it into the Cartesian coordinate, then this is the transformation matrix. It's like a time travel. So if you want to travel from one position to another, then you can use this. Okay, so you can see here, this is your natural coordinate system, this is your natural coordinate system, and this is your Cartesian coordinate system. So now if you want to travel from the natural coordinate system to the Cartesian coordinate system, you have to use a machine known as the Jacobian matrix. Okay, so this Jacobian matrix, when it is divided by this one, it will give you the Cartesian. That's why it is known as transformation matrix, which convert the natural coordinate into the Cartesian coordinate system. Understood till here? No doubt. Now we can move further. Now, equation 1 can also be written as. So, if you denote this as an equation 1, this complete equation 1 can also be written as del u by del x and del u by del y, which is normally this equation. And this Jacobian matrix we can transfer on the either side, on the other side. Then what will happen? This J will become inverse. So, J inverse into nothing I am doing is no rocket science. I am just transferring this J from this direction to this direction on the other one. So directly we cannot write like this. Okay, so instead of that, what we have to do, we will write this as a transformation matrix. This will be going down. So we can write del u by del x, del u by del y is equal to J inverse del u by del zeta and del u by del eta. That's what we are doing here. We are just transforming it. We are taking inverse of this and we are shifting it in the other side. Okay, so now it became del u by, that means what does that mean? That means that if you want to transform the Cartesian coordinate into the natural coordinate system, then you have to inverse the Jacobian matrix. But the thing is, we know that the inverse of any matrix is adjacent of that and the determinant of that. Correct? So adjacent of J divided by determinant of J. Okay, now here I have written or because what we are doing now is for u. If you see here, only one direction, that is in the x direction only I am considering. So I want to tell you through this is we can have the same thing in the y direction also. Can you see this? There is no much difference. Instead of u, I have written v. Why we have written v? Just to denote that the same derivations can be done in the y direction also. Okay, that we will see later when we'll do for v direction. That time it will be useful. You just understand that in the u direction, this is the application. Okay, where j inverse is adjacent of j divided by determinant of j. So let us find the adjacent of j value and the determinant of j value. So to find that, what we need to do, let us see. Okay, to find j inverse, let us consider x equal to x1, n1 x1 plus n2 x2 plus n3 x3. You know that, right? What is n1, n2 and n3? n1, n2 and n3 are the safe functions for the triangular element. If you don't remember, please go to the chapter 1 and chapter 2 where we have done the derivation for this already. And we have seen in the natural coordinate system, n1 equal to eta. We already know this, n1 equal to eta, n2 equal to zeta, and n3 equal to 1 minus eta zeta. We have done the derivation for this. I'm telling you again. If you have any doubt, you can go back and check this out. Okay, so for finding the j inverse, we are considering let x equals to n1 x1 plus n2 x2 plus n3 x3. Now substituting the value here, we'll get instead of n1 eta, instead of n2 zeta, and instead of n3 1 minus eta zeta. So when you will do it like this, you can get the relation between Cartesian coordinate system and the natural coordinate. Okay, what is the use of this? Why we are doing this all? We are doing this all because I know that I want del x by del eta and del x by del zeta. I know that. Okay, you can see here what I want is del u by del zeta and del x by del zeta and del x by del eta. Where it is, we will check this out. Here on the first point, del u by del x. Okay, this is in the Cartesian coordinate system. We'll show you. Let me clear this. Here we want del x by del eta and del x by del zeta. This is what I want. Del x by del eta, del x by del zeta, del y by del eta and del y by del zeta. So that's why we are doing the differentiation of this x with respect to eta and zeta. Once we do the derivation of that with respect to eta and zeta, we will get this. Correct? You can see del x by del eta. So what is eta here? Only this is the eta and this is the eta. Correct? Or in other word, this is your eta. Similarly, when we do for with the zeta, this is your zeta. So what it will come finally? What it will come? Del x by del eta will be x1 minus x3 and with the zeta x2 minus x3. Similarly, we'll go for y. Y again we will consider n1 y1 plus n2 y2 plus n3 y3, taking eta zeta, substituting the values and taking eta zeta as a common. Again differentiating that with respect to eta and zeta, we'll get the same thing. You can check here. This del y by del eta equal to y1 minus y3 and del y by del eta equal to y2 minus. Okay, now doing this, one thing you have to note down is you can write this x1 minus x3 equal to x13 and x23 you can write it as x23. Similarly, y1 minus y3 is written as y13, y2 minus y3 is written as y23. Okay, now substituting everything in the Jacobian matrix, you can see here, where is my Jacobian matrix? Here. So everything del x by del zeta, del y by del zeta, del x by del eta and del y by del zeta, everything I have now. I have to just substitute and I will get the final expression of j as something like this. Correct? So if this is j, then what will be the j inverse? What will be the j inverse? J inverse will be 1 by j into transpose of that or the adjacent of that. Okay, so that's what we have written here. You can see adjacent of j divided by determinant of j. So this is giving you the determinant of J, and this is your adjacent. You know how to find out the adjacent of matrix, any matrix? I hope you know. If you don't, means you have to interchange these two values, and these two values will be same, but the sign will change. So you can see here x13 will become here, y23 will go there, and here the signatures or the sign will change. It will become minus here and it will become minus here. So that will give you the adjacent of that. So my J inverse is what? 1 by J matrix into y23 minus y13 minus x23 and x13. Okay. I hope everything is clear till now. Okay. So now displacement at any point with the elements in x direction is expressed. And now we want to find the displacement in x direction. So that will be u equal to n1 q1 plus n2 q3 plus n3 q5. Mind it, 1, 3 and 5 here. 1, 3 and 5 here. You can see there is no direct contact. Not 1, 2 and 3. 1, 3 and 5 here represent in your diagram. If you check out this one, I will show you. In the diagram you can check out. In x direction, see it clearly. In x direction, q1, q3 and q5 is there. q1, q3 and q5 is there. That's what we are doing. That's what we are taking here. If you go down, you can see that's why we are taking q1, q3 and q5 here. You can check this. q1, q3 and q5. Understood? So where it is written here, q1, q3 and q5 are the displacement at node 1, 2 and 3 in x direction respectively, and m1, n2 and n3 are the shape function of the element. Okay, and now we know the value of n1, n2 and n3. If not, go back. This is the value of n1, n2 and n3. Okay, we are going to substitute it back. So we will get eta zeta 1 minus eta zeta, again taking as eta and zeta outside, so that we can differentiate it with respect to eta and zeta. So del u by del eta and del u by del zeta will be q1 minus q5. This is eta because it has a eta here, q1 minus q5, and this is zeta, that is q3 minus q5. So this is zeta, this is zeta. Okay, substituting above in equation 3. So let us go back. We will see the equation 3. This is your equation 3. So del u by del eta and del u by del zeta you want here. Okay, so that's what we will substitute it back. What we will get? We will get something like this. Okay, del u by del x, del u by del y equals to J inverse. It was J inverse. So 1 by J, y23, y13 minus x23, x13, and del u by del zeta is q1 minus q5, del u by del zeta is q3 minus q4. Okay, and that is what is our sigma x. So from here you can get the sigma x. What is sigma x? We have seen in the first expression only, del u by del x. So from this you can find out the value of del u by del x. Okay, and this will give you sigma y value. Okay, so if you multiply first row and the first column, you will get sigma x, sorry, epsilon x. Whereas when you multiply the second row and the first column, you will get epsilon y. As simple as that. So 1 by j, y23 into, so how we are doing? Again, it's not at all a big thing. So first row and first column, this and this must go first. So y23 into q1 minus q5 minus y13 into q3 minus q5 will give you the first one. Okay, this one and this one. So if you simplify, you keep on simplifying that. Once you simplify, you will get the final expression as something like this. Okay, something like this you are going to get. This is your final expression when you solve it. Fine. Similarly, we'll go for the next expression also. That is v in the y direction. Same thing we will do. What we have done for x. So v equal to again n1. Again in the y directions it will be. Mind it again. What is y direction? q2, q4 and Q6. Q2, Q4 and Q6. Substituting the value of N1, N2 and N3, we'll get eta Q2, zeta Q4 plus 1 minus eta minus zeta into Q6. Taking out eta and zeta as a, oh sorry, I forgot to write here zeta. Here zeta will come. Zeta, okay, taking out eta, zeta and common, because why we want to get the value as, del V by del eta and del V by del zeta. So from this we'll find out in terms of, when we differentiate in terms of eta, this is eta, you will get 2 minus 6. And when we'll do in terms of zeta, which I forgot to write here, you'll get Q4 minus Q6. It's fine. Again, we will substitute it back to equation number 3. Same thing we will do, same thing, there is no change. Again, we are going to substitute in equation 3. So we'll get u del v by del x del v by del y equals to inverse Jacobian matrix into del v by del into this one, del v by del eta and del v by del zeta values. Okay, so this will give you the strain energy that we will see later. Now you want is del v by del y, which you can do by the second row and the only column. Okay, so now you can see down. If you can see down, if you want del epsilon y, what you have to do? Now only I told you, if you want epsilon y, just the second term you have to consider, del v by del y, so that you just multiply the second row and the second column. That's why you can see here minus x23, here also minus x23 into q2 minus q6 into q2 minus q6 plus x13 plus x13 into this, plus x13 into this. Very simple, very simple. Keep on solving all this. You will get the final expression of this as this one. So my epsilon y is this one. Okay, now understand this. You got the value of epsilon x, you got the value of epsilon y. But what about the strain, shear strain? That is gamma xy. So gamma xy, if you remember, gamma xy equals to sigma. Okay, I will show you. Sigma x. What is my gamma value? Gamma value is del u by del y plus del v by del x. Now remember this, I got the value for del u by del x and del v by del y, that I got. Now I want is del u by del y and del v by del x. So how to get those values? Okay, for those values we are already having the expression. We are already having the expression. We just have to take it out. Okay, so let us see where it is. So this is my sigma x, which I have already taken. This is my sigma x, that is done. Now let us see, this is my sigma y, that is also done. Now my gamma xy. What is my gamma xy? You can see here only. It's none other than this one. So I need is del u by del y, which I can get from this, plus del v by del x. So if I add this two, I will get the gamma value, gamma of xy. Okay, so how I will get this del u by del y? Simple, like how we have done earlier. We will multiply the second with the row. Okay, same thing it will go for the del v by del x. Same thing it will go for the del v by del x, this expression. For that we need to go for the first, row and the column. And then we have to add both so that we can get the gamma of xy. You can check here. Okay, so my gamma of xy, when I put it in equation number 4 and 5, which is written clearly here, it's very necessary to understand this. Gamma of xy equal to del u by del y plus del v by del x, which we have already. If you add both, you will get this expression. Okay, now I got all the things. I got the epsilon x, I got the epsilon y, I got the gamma xy, everything now I am having. So now I will substitute here. So gamma equals to, or epsilon equals to epsilon x, epsilon y, epsilon gamma xy. Generalized equation is 1 by j. I am taking it as common and I am forming a matrix based on that. Here the matrix is, you can see y23. Once you see equation number 5, equation number, it came from equation number, one second. It came from equation number 7, where epsilon x is this much, and equation number 8, which is epsilon y, and equation number 9. That's what I have written here. You can see here 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so my final expression will be something like that. You can cross check that whether it is coming or not. So what I did is all the displacements I have taken out and the constant values I have taken in. Okay, so now again, as we always do, we will write this in the generalized form. So what I can write in the generalized form, that epsilon equals to matrix of B into Q. Okay, so this is my epsilon, and epsilon, what is my Q? This is my Q, the generalized form of all the 6 Q. Since we are having 2 degree of freedom at each node, that's why we have seen like Q1, Q2 for node 1, Q3, Q4 for node 2, Q3, Q5 and Q6 for node 3 are the displacement. And the remaining part, which we are denoting by matrix B, will give you the strain displacement matrix. Understood? And hence we can say this, what we can say this, and hence we can say this, the strain displacement matrix is nothing but this one. The expression for strain displacement matrix is 1 by j, y23 0, y31 0, y12 0, and keep on. So this is my strain displacement matrix. So once the strain displacement matrix is multiplied by the displacement at each nodes, we are going to get the strain for the entire system. This is your final. So what I have written in the last, you can check out, which is the required displacement matrix for 2D triangular element having 3 nodes and 2 degree of freedom at each corner. Okay, so it's very simple. I will just summarize it. Okay, so within 2 minutes I will summarize. So what we are doing the derivation here, we are doing the derivation for the strain displacement matrix for 2D triangular element having 3 nodes of each 2 degree of freedom. We have taken this. Then we have seen that sigma epsilon having normal strain in x and y direction, since only 2-dimensional we have taken. So epsilon x, epsilon y, and the shear strain in the xy plane. So x is represented by del u by del x, y is represented by del v by del y, and gamma is represented by del u by del y plus del v by del x. So we have applied the chain rule. Why we are applying the chain rule? Because we want to relate the Cartesian coordinate with the natural coordinate system. After that, we have formed it in the matrix form. Whatever is common, we have taken out. Whatever is common, we have taken out. After taking common out, whatever is left out is known as Jacobian matrix. Jacobian matrix is the matrix known as the transformation matrix, which convert the natural coordinate system. This is your del eta and zeta is your natural coordinate, transform into the Cartesian coordinate. That is known as the Jacobian matrix. After that, once the transformation is done, what we have done, we have transpose it, we have sent the Jacobian matrix on the other direction, where it is known as adjacent of j divided by determinant of j. Same thing is applicable for the y direction also. Okay, for finding the value of j inverse, what we have considered, x equals to n1 x1 plus n2 x2 plus n3 x3, substituting the value of in the natural coordinate system and differentiating it with respect to the natural coordinate system. Same thing we have done for the y direction also, and again we have substituted back into the Jacobian matrix because these are the unknown values. So once we have substituted the j values, we got j inverse equals to 1 by j y23 minus y13 minus x23 and x13. Okay, now what we have to do next, we have to find the displacement. For displacement in x direction, we have q1, q3 and q5. Similarly, in y direction, we have q2, q4 and q6. Okay, so once we have done with Q1, Q3 and Q5, substituting the value of N2, N1, N2 and N3 and differentiating it with respect to eta zeta, we got something like this. Let it be equation number 4, which we have substituted in equation number 3. Similarly, we will do for y direction also for considering Q2, Q4 and Q6. So it will become, equation number 3 will become like this. Okay, now from this we want each value separate. So sigma epsilon x, epsilon y and epsilon z, multiplying first row, first column will give you epsilon x, epsilon y, multiplying second row and second column will give you epsilon y. Doing all this, then for the gamma, opposite of those two we are doing, and in a generalized form we have obtained one matrix. That is nothing but epsilon or the strain. So whatever is left out other than the displacement is known as strain displacement matrix, which is denoted by matrix B. Okay, so this is the derivation for today. Any doubt is there, you can contact me. I'm ending this session. Thank you, people.